What screams, I'm a man-child, but nobody realizes it. They have extremely strict morals and principles when citing them will get them out of doing something. They'll drop all morals and principles when ignoring them will get them out of doing something. So I had a roommate who refused to share food, like at a meal, which he referred to as pick eating. He wouldn't give you a bite of his dish or allow you to eat one of his fries as he viewed it as unsanitary. However, if you made a pot of chili, you could spit in the pot and he'd still eat half of it. This actually contributed to the end of our association. Late one night, we stopped at a fast food joint and I got a hamburger. Realizing that I'd forgotten the napkins, I left the table to get some. I returned to find 2 large bites taken out of my burger. I just wanted to know what it tasted like, he explained. Then give me 2 bites of your burger, I demanded. I don't like it when people pick eat, he suggested. In one of my least proud moments, I slapped him hard across the face, causing him to get tangled in the awkward Hardee's seats that are mounted to the floor. I left him at Hardee's and we parted ways the following week. It was a culmination of similar pain-in-the-butt events, but to this day, it still really pisses me off. Yo, this dude isn't a man-child. He's just an adult a-hole. Story 2. I can only speak to my experiences as a reformed man-child, but that was a significant part of it. It's a kind of a complex thing. My parents, particularly my mom, were unwilling to let me do anything around the house except for the vacuuming. On the flip side, my dad just refuses to ask for help or even tell people he's doing something so they could have the chance to offer to help. My parents had a very binary take on everything. I was either doing fantastic or crap in school. I either did a great job with vacuuming or never heard the end of it when I missed a spot. Eventually, I learned that I'm going to get chewed out the majority of the time since no one's perfect 100% of the time. If you're going to get chewed out anyway, why bother putting in the effort? You'd never hear a, that's a pretty good first try, or nice job, but you need to dust that lamp too, in my house. In my parents' culture, you're expected to stay at home until you graduate from university, get a good job, and maybe get an arranged marriage. The fact that my parents had immigrated to Canada hadn't changed that expectation at all. I think to other parents it would have been cause to have a talk that I didn't get my driver's license at a reasonable age or have a girlfriend for a long time. Your parents are supposed to provide guidance on your development as an adult, even if that guidance is just setting a good example, and my parents never did that. Eventually, I realized this whole situation was weird and not good, and I moved out at 27. And you would not believe the wailing and gnashing of teeth that caused it. The tantrum my parents threw was unreal. It's what I would expect if a child died, not moved to somewhere a 10-minute drive away. It's a big part of what made me realize these people would never have taught me to be independent. I had to take it for myself. Since then, I've been chipping away at my man-childness. Every little adult thing helps. Keep my place clean, do my own groceries, cook for myself, go to therapy, start dating and having relationships, etc. It might sound banal to people who have been doing these things since their teenage years, but compared to a lot of people my age, I have a decade less experience. Story 3. Here are some that I've experienced with a man-child. He breaks stuff and punches holes in walls over things. It doesn't even matter how big or small the trigger. Immediate signal he's a man-child and incapable of regulating himself and his emotions. Seeing some people defend this behavior or arguing semantics, if a man is constantly showing aggressive behavior to the point of breaking things, or someone who defends this behavior, yeah, I'd say both are massive red flags. Constantly seeking the validation of multiple people that are the gender they are attracted to, nothing screams insecurity like needing a bunch of people to fawn over you. Putting other men down for liking books or video games while they obsess over sports, Fast and the Furious, and cars and more cars. Everyone has a hobby and we all have things we enjoy. Liking video games or books doesn't make you any less of a man. Acting like watching sports makes you manly always seems like projection to me. How's a guy sitting on his throne watching football games all weekend any better than another guy sitting and reading books or playing video games all weekend? It's the same damn thing, and he thinks of these people as quote-unquote nerds. Whoever this person is referring to must be living in a cave or something. It's 2024, dude, and the dude is still using the term nerds. Story 4. Trying too hard to act like an adult in front of others is super immature to me. People who look down on others for their downtime, as if sitting in front of the TV, having a beer, or playing fantasy football is somehow way more mature, just haven't grown up. I've heard men and women talk about X doesn't make you any money or get you ahead in life, why waste your time on it? One of my friends on Steam judging others for playing video games publicly but playing video games privately? Seriously, grow up. One coworker said she doesn't date guys that play video games because of how they get obsessed with games and don't do anything else, etc. Basically talked about anyone who plays video games like they are a basement dweller. She apparently watches a ton of reality TV. I play video games when I have time, many weeks that can be 0 hours, but gamers are the obsessive ones because watching TV is just what everyone does or something like that. There's nothing more childish than the desperate need to prove how grown up you are. Story 5. Jealousy and insecurity over nothing. I went bowling with this guy I was seeing and he would go back and forth about being in a situationship or relationship. I went to get us some drinks and he saw me talking with 2 other older men who were professional bowlers. When I was younger, I had bowled for probably 15 years and we were exchanging stories for maybe 5 to 10 minutes while I waited for our drinks. There was only one bartender and it was taking a little longer than expected. By the time I returned, he was completely standoffish, admitted he was jealous, and felt put out that I left him alone. He was irritated when he looked over and saw me having conversations with others and he sat there alone feeling foolish. I was pretty confused. Looking back, I would say this qualifies as kind of man-child behavior. He was nearly 30. Story 6. Often, it's not so much about specific behaviors or interests that label someone a quote-unquote man-child, but rather their inability to balance those interests with responsibilities and personal growth. It's perfectly okay to collect action figures, enjoy video games, or watch cartoons as an adult. These are hobbies, not indicators of maturity. However, when someone allows these interests to consume their life to the point where they neglect responsibilities, disregard the feelings or needs of others, or remain stuck in a perpetual state of adolescence, that's when it becomes a problem. It's about balance and emotional intelligence more than anything else. For example, if a person is more interested in achieving a high score in a video game than paying bills on time or being a supportive partner, then that's more telling of man-child behavior. As with everything, context is key, and remember, everyone matures at their own pace. It's never too late to grow up. Story 7. An abundance of aggressive bumper stickers, extremely loud exhaust. I can see motorcycles having them, but big pickups and Honda Civics don't need them. Then they pass you on the road while you're walking and rev up their engine. Screw these guys. I already suffer from tinnitus. Doing burnouts and donuts in the cars, revving your car as loud as you can. It reminds me of having Hot Wheels and yelling vroom vroom louder than my sister. Speeding, I always think, wow, yes, the car can go vroom. Very good. Now here is your lolly. They follow Andrew Tate on Twitter. I'm an alpha male kind of behavior. Guys who open carry. I get concealed, but walking around with a Glock on your hip makes you look insecure and a try-hard weirdo. And I'm willing to bet you're very opinionated about crap that doesn't matter nor concerns you at all anyway. Never taking accountability, blaming other people for your failures, not being able to reflect, and lack of empathy and introspection. Refuses to demonstrate an emotion other than anger, refusing to learn how to cook. It's a human skill that humans need. Then getting really aggressive and possessive if some dude is talking to your wife, acting super puffed up and standing between them to run the dude off. Having to be the driver 100% of the time. Getting too worked up about being asked to buy tampons in an urgent situation for his spouse or partner because he believes it's intended to emasculate him. It's not. Worrying that an OTC med marketed for women's cramps, etc. is going to do something weird to you when the active and inactive ingredients are found in common OTC pain relievers and meds anyways. It's not a big deal if handed a pen at an office for paperwork that has a flower taped to it. Nobody thinks you're effeminate and it keeps the pens from disappearing. You look worse if you have to ask for a plain pen. And lastly, weaponized incompetence only agrees to do anything useful if badgered, but then does it so horribly there is no point in having them attempt it in the first place, and instead of trying to be better, blames you for being the one to ask them to do it at all. It's one of the things I hate the most. Okay, wow, that was a long laundry list of man-child characteristics, and luckily the only thing I'm kinda guilty of was the wheels go vroom when I was 8 or something, because, Hot Wheels, it's Hot Wheels. Well, man-child or not, I'm pretty sure you can do me a solid by hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It really does help me out. Thank you. Story 8. Not having the patience to call on or allow servers to do their job and getting what you want yourself. Flushing literally anything that isn't toilet paper into a toilet, namely paper towels. Parking your bike in a communal hallway in front of the shoe shelf and partially blocking the entrance to your own room and being fine with it when the garage is 20 feet away. Indulging in immature behavior without self-awareness might scream quote-unquote man-child to others, yet it often goes unnoticed by the person themselves. Hides behind, can't you take a joke, instead of taking responsibility when he's caused offense. Having expensive hobbies that take money away from things other members of the family need or could enjoy together. I've lost count of the number of frugal women I know whose ex-husbands constantly pissed money they didn't have on stupid stuff like car mods and accessories, guitars, top-tier barbecue equipment, fancy bicycles. Now, I'm all for people having hobbies, but when your kids are still sharing a bedroom whilst you're riding around in a $6,000 bicycle, you might want to rein it in, buddy. Story 9. Not being able to cook or not being able to cook beyond grilling meat, not being able to clean or do your own laundry. Basically, having a partner to serve as a mother figure. I know that every relationship is unique and some still hold traditional values, but there is a difference between not helping and helping in different ways. All the Ford F-Truck series, F-250, F-350, F-450, and any other huge pickup used for regular driving. Just mostly men driving around like little boys needing to have the biggest toys. I don't know about the grilling part, like the story before this one too. Why are people hating on barbecue? My dad takes pride on his Sunday grill out events and everybody loves those. Story 10. Having a mountain of dirty clothes, needing a woman to cook and clean, thinking taking care and playing with his own kids is babysitting, having a huge list of preferences, and posting it online, usually physical attributes, messy room with dirty dishes everywhere, no one to clean it up for him, thinking doing chores in the house needs a reward, getting intimate, new video game, etc., thinking women are there to satisfy him, being 25 but still having a bunk bed, spending $80 on a go-kart online because that's such a steal before realizing it was a scam, saving for a car although you failed the driving test 3 times. Story 11. Grown men's place of living, looking, and smelling like a teenager's. I'm recently divorced, but I lived on my own for a few years before I met my ex-wife and got married. This was when I was around 18 to 20 years old and lived that teenage male lifestyle where nothing but the bare minimum was accounted for and cleaning was semi-optional. After I met my ex, I grew up because I was no longer providing for just myself. We had opposite schedules for a few years and we both did our share of chore things. We had a kid and unfortunately ended up getting a divorce. I have some friends who I've kept in touch with that are single and in their 30s. We would usually meet out at a restaurant or a pub. I recently went over to one of their apartments and it was like walking into my own teenage apartment. There was a dead cockroach in the corner by the toilet base in his guest bathroom. A month later, we met at his place before going out and it was still there. I don't know how an adult can live like that. Also, I have 50% custody of my son, so one of his friends' mom came over to drop off his friend for a play date and was absolutely floored that my house was, in fact, suitable for a kid to be in. Clean and neat and full of food that's cooked and not microwaved. Besides my own son's room, you can't really tell if a kid lives there. To her, this was just inconceivable. Story 12. Here's a list I have in mind. First, not wanting to do any chores like clothes, dishes, taking out the garbage, etc. Second, not picking or cleaning up after themselves, especially in public places or in another person's space. Third, wanting pets but not wanting to take care of them, my dad. Fourth, taking out work anger at home, also my dad. Fifth, being grossed out by periods, tampons, pads, blood, pimples, stretch marks, hair, etc. Sixth, gets his mother to do literally everything. Seventh, expects the women in his life, girlfriend, fiance, wife, to be their new mother figure. Eighth, threatening to do something to their partner or their partner's property. Ninth, calling their partner an idiot, dumb, or stupid for liking something just because they don't agree. 10th, will only eat certain foods, steak, pizza, burgers, but nothing else, doesn't count if you're allergic. 11th, constantly complaining about all women being the same. 12th, complaining about easy jobs not being real jobs, like work from home versus heavy labor. 13, complaining about how hard it was in their day and how it's so much easier now. Again, my dad. 14, complaining about how kids have it so much easier than when they were kids. Don't you want your kids to have an easier life? 15, always complaining about cooking and then trying to add something to make it better, more butter, salt, spice, etc. 16, throwing temper tantrums like a toddler for one reason or another. 17, getting upset about something they said or did that was wrong that was found out about and confronted to them about, cheating or lying. 18. Keeping feelings bottled up because they are quote-unquote manly and then getting upset about when you ask. 19. Acting like a male Kevin, but refusing to listen to anyone who tells them otherwise. And 20. Calling someone a wuss or a wimp for not doing something like drinking or smoking or anything quote-unquote dangerous. Story 13. The kind of guy who plops down in front of the TV or his video games or something when he gets home, not just for a short break after a hard day's work, but for literal hours while his wife or girlfriend, who also works outside the home, bustles around, fixing dinner, helping the kids with their homework, doing laundry, cleaning, unloading and loading the dishwasher, etc., etc., etc. Maybe if he's feeling generous, he says, "Let me know if you need help," but doesn't think to actually get off the couch and help, or if she takes him up on his offer, says, "Just a minute," over and over again. Should she go away for a girl's weekend, he's constantly calling or texting her to ask how to do this and that or the other thing when he could just as easily Google it or ask literally anyone else, so she can't relax or enjoy herself. And he doesn't have a damn clue who's allergic to what, who won't eat what, how to call the nanny or the pediatrician, etc., or what was in that gift marked "from mom and dad." Usually he has the nerve to then get upset himself when she's too tired after basically running the household all by herself for intimacy. He complains that she's frigid and blames the dead bedroom on her, says she doesn't care about his needs, etc. Story 14. Feeling the need to outman the other men you're around. I knew a guy like this. He was exhausting AF and would be the guy to start fights in clubs when he had a few drinks. The imaginary pissing match between men is exhausting, especially when there's new women around. I mean, I'm not a man, so maybe that's a part of it, but I'd imagine that if you know who you are comfortable with, and like who you are, then there's no threat to your ego or identity wherever you go or with whomever you hang out with. It's stupid. That's the epitome of toxic masculinity right there. It's 100% insecurities and jealousy. Men like this are not comfortable with themselves or their identities at all and try to one-up everyone else to feel secure in a social circle. Toxic masculinity makes them feel like they can't legitimately express themselves, so they resort to power games to be the alpha. On a lighter note, I know it's harder to escape from than just recognizing it. Our society is organized so that, for the most part, men have to make the first move and, as a result, experience a lot of rejection. Men are also fed a steady diet of public service content that, while well-intentioned, often come across as just another form of rejection. Your perfectly normal sexuality is creepy and wrong. Under these conditions, it is very difficult to achieve the state of you know who you are comfortable with, and like who you are. And that's why, or at least one of the reasons why, we have all these incels and man-children. Another reason is that we have no cultural templates for how good men act and look. We've got plenty of PSAs telling men what not to do, but the paradigmatic men to emulate are dated and problematic. If I don't just want to be a good person, but rather a good man, including appropriate expression of my gender and sexuality, what role model should I look to? Our men are still trying to be like James Bond or John Wayne. So yes, toxic masculinity, but it's not just an issue with these particular men, it permeates our whole culture. Story 15. Not taking out your garbage for weeks on end when you live in an apartment building, even when the weather gets really hot and your trash stinks so badly that simply walking into the building is like being hit in the face with a corpse. Yes, man-child and number 33, I'm talking to you. Last summer, at peak stench, the property manager went in for exactly that reason and just found bags and bags of garbage. I don't know how thoroughly she searched for bodies, but the smell did diminish when she took the garbage out, so I assumed that's all it was. This summer, I'm not so sure. The tenant himself is fine, making his usual living noises, but I tell you, if his fridge turns out to be all full of heads, I won't keel over in shock. Story 16. Story time. I have anosmia. I was born without a sense of smell. I get paranoid about things like my garbage, body odor, etc., partly because I can't tell if things stink, and partly because people often won't tell me when something stinks. I used to work as a consulting radiation expert. I did a spell traveling to rural dental surgeries to test x-ray machines. When I finished, I was driving around for weeks, including having people in my car, until I picked up my best friend, who immediately stopped me and said something is dead in your car. I opened the bonnet and nothing was dead, but the engine was absolutely covered in possum crap. Apparently, they will sleep on engines in winter because they're warm. My car had smelled like hot possum crap for a month, with everyone being too polite to bring it up with me. Nothing to do with your man-child, he just sounds like a jerk, but I wanted to tell that story. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the man-child stories in this video. And if you made it this far, I'm sure you're also going to enjoy biggest red flag women have on the first date. The dude in story 2, will give you the creeps. I'll see you in that video, and thank you for watching this one.